trommer. Damer og herrer, på trommer har vi Mr. Al Jackson.
This musician was called the human timekeeper because of his perfect beat and time. During his brief but successful career, this man was a member of the famous Stax Records house band Booker T and the MGs, as well as a drummer for Al Green, Sam and Dave, Otis Redding, Tina Turner, Eric Clapton, and Albert King, now regarded as one of the most influential drummers in music history. This man was instrumental in developing the Memphis sound and has served as an example of excellence for generations of drummers. The centerpiece of today's video is all about Al Jackson Jr. Before we start, let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push the notification bell to be sure you won't miss on any more uploads. Now without further ado, let's cue that intro. Born Albert Jackson Jr. on November 27th, 1935 in Memphis, Tennessee, he started playing drums at an astonishingly young age. His father, a prominent bassist and band leader for a huge jazz band, encouraged Jr.'s early interest in music, even encouraging him to join his band on stage at the age of 5. Another band member was trumpeter Willie Mitchell, who suggested that then 14-year-old Jackson joined the band full-time. He could play Gene Krupa and all that stuff, and he was reading charts when he was 12 years old. He had to because his daddy's band had 3 trumpets, 2 trombones, and 4 saxophones, and when they hit, he better hit with them. After leaving the army in the mid-50s, Willie Mitchell returned to Memphis to form his own band and promptly offered Jackson a drum chair. Booker T. Jones, a young multi-instrumentalist in Mitchell's band, was immediately struck by Jackson's skill and desire of greatness. He would hit you over the head with the drumstick if 1/8 note or a 16th note was off. I mean, he was up and cussing. Al Jackson's place on stage was behind me, and the important thing for me was to keep on time, so I didn't get hit. That's pretty good incentive for a 14-year-old. Jones was working as a session musician for the fledgling Stax label in 1962 when he met the drummer he wanted to collaborate with. On what is thought to be Jackson's first day at Stax Records, the drummer was scheduled to record alongside Billy Lee Riley, Booker T. Jones, Steve Cropper, and Louis Steinberg. When Riley failed to come, the Cymbal Quartet began improvising together, and producer Jim Stewart sensibly started recording. The unplanned session produced the legendary hits Green Onions, which quickly rose to #1 on the R&B charts, and Behave Yourself, ushering in the era of soul music. After agreeing on the name Booker T and the MGs, the integrated group gave Stax something invaluable, a solid house band. Before Al Jackson, we did not have a unit. We had Steve Cropper and different guys that we used on a regular basis, said Jim Stewart. The addition of Booker T and the MGs to the roster provided the label with a well-defined identity, one that would later become known as the Memphis Sound. As the eldest member of Booker T and the MGs, Jackson was seen as a de facto leader within the group, and the other members frequently turned to him for guidance. Jackson's advice was almost always humble and straightforward. He kept things simple. Jackson, the band's drummer, effectively delivered the groove, fluidly changing from big backbeats to more delicate tones depending on the song. Without, you just had to kind of wait on him and wait till he come down on the beat to catch him. He'd just keep it right where he thought it should be, and he'd make you look like a fool. But he was right 90% of the time. Explained by Duck Dunn, the bassist who replaced Louis Steinberg in the MGs in 1964. In addition to his full-time position at Stax, Jackson maintained a contact with Willie Mitchell, who was now recording hits for the local High Records. At High, Jackson played drums on some of Al Green's biggest singles, such as Let's Stay Together, Call Me, and I'm Still in Love with You. And in addition to creating the backbeat for some of R&B's most memorable tunes, Jackson was also a talented songwriter, and he wrote or co-wrote such massive hits as Albert King's The Hunter and People's I Feel Like Breaking Up Somebody's Home, and Al Green's aforementioned greatest hits. Following the release of their 1971 album Melting Pot, Booker T and the MGs split up, bringing an end to a really magical era at Stax that won the group the title of the world's best house band. Jackson became a session musician working with some of the industry's greatest names. For the next 4 years, Jackson played rhythm for the likes of Tina Turner, Bill Withers, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Donny Hathaway. 4 years after their separation, Steve Cropper, Duck Dunn, Booker T. Jones, and Jackson met to discuss intentions to reconvene under the name Booker T. Jones in the Memphis group. Only 9 days later, Jackson, who was 39 years old, was found unalived in his house. Now, here are the circumstances that led to Jackson's passing. Booker T and the MG's drummer and Stax session musician Al Jackson Jr. was shot in the chest with a .22 caliber revolver following a fight with his wife Barbara at their Memphis home. Barbara, who confesses to firing 2 bullets, with only the second of which struck Jackson. Barbara claims she fired it in self-defense. As Jackson subsequently testified, he followed his wife out of the house at 8 p.m. and inquired about Barbara's whereabouts. When she cursed at him, he struck her, knocking her into the hood of his car, which was parked in the driveway. Jackson then struck his wife, grabbed her by the hair, and flung her into a flower bed. He followed her back into the home where she approached him with the handgun, firing a warning shot before striking him in the chest. After Barbara shot him, Jackson struck her again and took the weapon, then walked to his bedroom, retrieved a .38 caliber revolver, and fired it once into the floor. Barbara requested a neighbor call the police around 8:30 p.m. Arriving cops found Jackson sprawled in the den's entry hall and transported him to Baptist Hospital, where Barbara was questioned at 10:15 p.m. A Memphis City court judge dismissed Barbara Jackson's assault with intent to M, finding that Jackson's behavior before to the shooting would tend to lead Barbara to believe that she was in danger. Jackson claims in evidence that he shot the .38 into the floor to ease his rage. He stated that he intended to unalive his wife after she shot him, but he was unable to do it. Following the event, Alan and Barbara Jackson continued to live in their house, but in separate bedrooms. Despite being scheduled to go to Chicago for a business meeting, Jackson decides to attend a telecast showing of the Ali Frazier fight. The telecast was shown at Memphis Mid-South Coliseum, where Jackson was joined by another woman. His airline bookings for the Chicago trip were changed for 10 a.m. the next day, but Jackson never made the flight. At 12:15 a.m., a police sergeant passes by the Jackson residence on his way home from work and discovers Barbara Jackson screaming and wailing on the pavement, and her hands were tied behind her back. The officer goes into the house and discovers Jackson lying on the den floor, evidently shot many times. Barbara, who was suspected of hurting Al only a few months before, claims to have witnessed the crime. According to Barbara, when she returned home from a beauty salon at 11 p.m., she was accosted by a young black male just inside her front door. The intruder brandished a weapon at her and demanded cash. After she told him there was no cash in the house, he tied her to a chair with an ironing cord and searched the house for valuables. When the front doorbell rang, the burglar untied Barbara and told her to respond while pointing the revolver at her. Barbara stepped to the door and encountered her estranged husband, who was immediately confronted by the robber. After the intruder fled, Barbara managed to knock over the chair and free herself. Unable to use the telephone because her hands were still tied, Barbara ran out into the street screaming, "My husband is in the house." Police notes state that Barbara heard the robber address her husband by his first name, indicating that they perhaps knew each other. Jackson was found lying face down, having been shot in the back 5 times. The thief was never captured and he fled with some jewelry and the contents of Jackson's pockets. Despite the Memphis Police Department's promise to Stax records in the black community to find the man who was responsible for the crime, the case is still unresolved. It is also alleged that blues legend Denise LaSalle and Barbara Jackson were close friends and that alleged the man who committed this crime was a boyfriend of LaSalle who lost his life in Seattle during a shootout with the police in 1976. It's also alleged that Jackson was seeing a Memphis police officer at the time of Jackson passing, but after being questioned and passing a polygraph test, he was let go. If you would like to read more about the story that goes in detail and naming suspects, then I suggest reading the articles I listed in the description. We'll never know what Al Jackson Jr. could have accomplished if his life hadn't been cut short, but his contributions to Memphis music and the art of drumming alone justify his status as an all-time legend. Now, before we go, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite song that Al Jackson Jr. played on?